Good day, everyone. I hope all is well. My name is Rudy Page, and I'm really pleased. Once again, I've got my friend, Dr. Dwain Neil, Chair of Reach Society. And today we're talking Windrush. And because we're in Windrush month, and we've got lots of activities happening across the UK over the next few days. Dr. Dwain Neil, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Rudy. I am fine. Are you well?
All is well, all is well. So
excellent, excellent.
Before we start, I'm really impressed with your shirt. Tell us the story behind that design.
Well, thank you for asking, Rudy. What you're looking at is the logo for the Windrush Day Thanksgiving gatherings. And we decided in Reach Society, in order to make the campaign stand out, we would give it its own brand. So it's a combination of 3 generations of family, the Reach Society logo at the center, and also what we're very much about, celebrating cultural esteem, Windrush Day Thanksgiving in the family. But all of those things will unfold as we speak.
Excellent. And I like that move for a clear corporate identity, particularly in the area of community services within the Caribbean community here in the UK, which we rarely see. And I can see the combination of the private sector and the social enterprise sector collaborating within, the system as a whole, which is excellent. So
we try and build relationships because, as you will know from Reach Society, our overarching motto is building connections.
Yeah.
And over our 12 years, because we're in our 12th year, we have built relationships absolutely with the third sector, the public sector, and the private sector. And we continue to maintain those relations because they're important.
Absolutely. Collaboration, trust, and cooperation is essential, and I know from your track record have put together to ensure that there is cohesion and improved performance in terms of the delivery of services to the community. So well done as usual.
Thanks, Rudy.
So, Dwain, so what does Windrush Day have to do with celebrating cultural esteem?
That's such a good question because most people will know that Windrush Day was first publicly announced as a commemoration for Caribbean folks down the generations back in June of 2018. And what we did in Reach Society, we encouraged a lot of people to have those gatherings in their families. And after 3 years of doing that, they told us that the gatherings were producing a sense of cultural esteem. So that for us is why Windrush Day has been linked to cultural esteem, which is very much around celebrating the pride that we have in our culture.
Okay. So why was the idea of Windrush Day Thanksgiving in the family launched in January 2019?
Most people will recall that when Windrush Day was announced in 2018, there was a grant scheme. And the grant scheme allowed folks to apply for a share of £500,000. Now, that's not a lot of money when the statement from government is that anyone in the United Kingdom can apply for some of that grant. And we heard a number of people who failed to get that grant saying, we didn't get any of the money, so we're not interested in Windrush Day. That for us was dissonance. And we didn't believe that we should simply sit idly by to allow a lot of people in our community say Windrush Day isn't important.
Yeah.
And that's why we encouraged members of the Black community to meet on a Sunday, gather, and basically tell their stories. The grandparents telling their stories, the parents telling their stories, and both generations talking of their hopes for their grandchildren. And we know that was going to be a low-hanging fruit because in a lot of Black families, Sundays is when they get together, and Sundays is where they enjoy each other's company. And a lot of people took up the idea, Windrush Day Thanksgiving in the family.
Yeah, and that's again the self-initiative that goes on for the community's own well-being. And of course, Reach Society, once again, you've led well in that area. So great work. So why was the campaign for Windrush Day Thanksgiving Gatherings launched in June 2021?
June of last year was an important milestone for the work we're doing to build awareness, because June of last year was when we had somewhere between 15 and 18 followers of Windrush Day Thanksgiving in the family on a virtual call. And we asked them, how were they finding those conversations? After all, they'd been doing it in 2019, 2020, and they'd just finished doing it in 2021. And so that was when we picked up the message from virtually everyone on that call that they felt as if they were celebrating cultural esteem. The following day, our patron, Professor Sir Jeff Palmer, called me and basically said, Dwain, I believe Reach Society should spearhead spreading the word to our community that gathering to celebrate cultural esteem was a really, really good thing to do. And he went further. He said, if we do this properly, we being our community, it will soon be seen as our St. Patrick's Day. And that is St. Patrick's Day in the Irish community. And we've had that earlier this year, and everybody will remember all of the celebrations and gatherings that went on in the Irish community and their friends. And he said, it may even feel like our Burns suppers, which of course, Scottish people have been celebrating Robert Burns' life for a very long time. And that really caught my attention.
Yeah.
And the management team also agreed that this was a good campaign for the society to be involved in. So June of last year was significant for all of those things coming together. And we're delighted to be on that page now for almost 12 months.
And that is excellent again. And I can see how Sir Jeff, as he does, sowing the seeds, and then you guys really planting the roots, you know, and ensuring that the structure and the systems to support will be put in place. And,
well, Rudy, we are very lucky to have Sir Jeff as one of our 5 patrons.
Absolutely.
He is not just one of the brightest 82-year-olds I know. He has done enormous amounts to contribute to benefiting our community. And more than that, he still remains our most accomplished scientist, because folks who look at his profile, which is on our website, will see he was the inventor of the barley abrasion process. And that process allows this country to brew beers and the like by a technique that has not been bested for 30 to 40 years, which means the United Kingdom year on year makes huge profits from his process. So there is a man of Jamaican birth who's lived here from the age of 13, who's made his mark. He's made a huge contribution to science and also to equality.
It really has that, again, that intellectual power very much under-recognized, you know, within society, but yet we have people like Sir Jeff in our community. Right, so why was the booklet Our Guide for Celebrating Cultural Esteem written last year?
As part of the campaign, when we talked and prepared to roll out the idea, we felt that it was important to capture the essence of what we were saying to the community. And the booklet was an elegant way of pulling all those ideas together. So it's not a large booklet, there's less than 40 pages in it, A third of that is given over to examples of people in our community, and this is the modern Black community in the United Kingdom, who've contributed. We call that the alphabet of achievement and contribution. But we start the booklet by basically paying homage to two organizations that have been going for far longer than Reach Society. The Windrush Foundation, which actually established the name Windrush in the psyche of British people. Sam King, who's now passed away, and Arthur Torrington were the two founders of that. And we paid tribute to Windrush Foundation and also to the West Indian Association of Service Personnel, abbreviation WASP. And they did what Windrush Foundation were doing by reminding the British people of the contribution of Black servicemen and women down the generations. So we felt it was important to pay tribute to them. And we also went on to talk about what has happened in this country during World War II and since World War II, particularly on the back of the migration of folks into the UK as part of the rebuilding, starting in 1948 to the present day. And then we basically pulled the idea together around various ways that the community could gather and celebrate cultural esteem all across the country. And, you know, the book for us was a demonstration of just how this idea is the lowest hanging fruit in our community. You don't need a grant to gather with your family and celebrate cultural esteem. You don't need a grant to gather with your friends to have a pint and have a meal and talk about our achievements and contributions. You don't need a grant to do what Reach Society is doing on the 24th of June. You invite a group of friends and supporters of the organization to a meal in a wonderful restaurant in Camden Town and basically enjoy sharing our achievements and contributions.
Absolutely. So there was a YouTube video posted in January of this year. Why was that important?
That is such a good question, Rudy, because as part of the campaign, we wanted to hear from people around the country of their hopes of what they would like to do in June of this year. So at the start of the year in January, we called a number of people and said, would you like to contribute to sharing this message? We are producing a video which we will post on the Society's website and on YouTube. And almost without exception, they all said delighted. So that video, which is still accessible on the homepage of our website, basically is a collation of what several leaders of community groups said they were going to be doing this month. And I would say, Rudy, virtually all of them have stuck to those ideas. You know, the ACMA, the African Caribbean Medical Association, they said they were going to get their various branches to do something to celebrate it. They are absolutely doing that. And they've told us, you know, our friends in the Association of Jamaicans, they said that they were going to do something around the service, they were going to do something around a meal, and they were going to do various other things, including supporting WASP in their annual march past in South London. And they are absolutely doing that. And our good friends in Birmingham, you know, Rafa, and of course, Rudy, you'll know Rafa well because you led it for a good long time. They are doing a number of things which brings in many of their Church of God of Prophecy worshippers across the country. And they're working with young people to do something around the whole recognition of the community. And there are many others who are doing things which they first told us when we did the video in January of this year. And we're just so pleased because people have grasped the idea, they're running with it, because celebrating cultural esteem is what we should perhaps have been doing for decades. You know, we're 74 years in the UK. And 74 years, we have a huge amount of contribution that we have made in this country, a huge amount of achievement that we've made and are continuing to make. we have loads to be proud of and loads to celebrate.
Yeah, and it's good to hear those organisations carrying out the commitments that they've made. So you touched on it earlier on, but tell me about Reach Society's Windrush Day Thanksgiving gathering on Friday, the 24th of June in Camden Town, of course, which I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely, because you're one of our guests. Well, we felt it was important to host our own gathering, and a number of us had dinner at a lovely restaurant in Camden Town the December of last year. And over the meal, we said, what about this as a venue? And we looked at it and we thought, yeah, it's elegant, the food is great, and the proprietor was actually there. So we had a brief word with him and we said, this is what we're thinking of. And he said, what do you think? And he said, absolutely, let's talk in the new year and set a date. And that really led us to that venue where we could invite family members, friends, and supporters of Reach Society in our particular Windrush Day Thanksgiving gathering. And the way that we're going to be celebrating, after much discussion and lots of great ideas, we've settled on 4 themes for driving our celebrations. There will be a series of toasts driven by each of these themes. You won't be surprised to hear that one of the themes is to get a group of young people who are not yet 40, who are out there in the workplace, to actually share the names of other young people, not yet 40, who are doing great things. And already we have more than half a dozen young people under 40 who have volunteered to lead those toasts to other young people.
Right.
We've also got another category, which is family and friends. And under family and friends, we know from all of our contacts, from all of our friends, that they will know people who are family members or friends who have done enormous things and are doing enormous things. And we've got volunteers to raise toasts to those people. A third category are people in the public eye, because we also know there are many, many and a growing list of people from the modern Black community who are doing wonderfully well, and they're in the public eye. And so again, we've got volunteers who are going to lead toasts to those people in our community in the public eye. And the final section is a section which is ad hoc and entirely open, where we would invite our guests to again raise their glasses to toast others not yet mentioned under any category of their choosing. And I can tell you, the cat is out the bag now. We have a number of people who are extremely accomplished within the faith sector. And I know there will be some good things said of the many people who have contributed to that sector. And Rudy, you and I know that the faith sector is probably one of our most successful in this country. Going back to the 1950s, the lack of welcome from the various established churches meant that many of our religious people started their own churches, started their own movements, and now they're everywhere in the UK. That, for me, is a source of enormous pride. And there are people who have said they're quite happy to cite contributors and achievers in that sector.
Yeah. And as you say that, Dwain, just before we get to our final question, is that what a lot of people don't realize, that some of the major institutions that they see as everyday bodies, well known for their work, such as, Black Boys Clan, King Solomon, we mentioned Rafa, Nehemiah housing associations.
Absolutely.
All started from those dedicated people from the churches who were in the church. And then those agencies have spawned another group of young people, giving them the skills, the executive skills, and they've gone on to do other things. And there's many, many projects around the world that have really come from that. And that's probably a dialogue for another day.
But the quintessential thing that links all of what you say, Rudy, is that they are great examples of folks within our community taking full responsibility for our affairs. They're not sitting back and waiting for somebody else to come and do what they recognize needs to be done. And, you know, if we keep doing that, it won't be that long before so many of the current fault lines will be being addressed and solutions found to lift a lot more people out of the predicaments that they're in. So we laud them, we support them, and we hope they continue to do the fantastic work they're doing.
Absolutely. So finally, Dwain, what impact has there been of the campaign for the gatherings?
I think it's early days, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say one or two things about the impact. I think the first and most important thing is that there are many community leaders and third sector organizations who will be celebrating cultural esteem between the 22nd and the 26th of June. And they will be doing it in Cardiff, they will be doing it in Huddersfield, they'll be doing it in Bradford, they'll be doing it in Edinburgh, they'll be doing it in Birmingham, they'll be doing it in Leicester, they'll be doing it in Southampton, and they'll be doing it in many, many parts of Greater London. So I think as an initial impact, we have seeded the idea across the UK. I know that there are folks who not only see that as a fun thing to do, because it will be fun, but they can see that if we continue doing it, we will be reframing how our young people see our community. And the reason I say that is because Reach Society knows that there are lots of young people who are effectively the grandchildren of the Windrush generation who don't know our story.
Yeah.
And I believe that the emerging impact is that more and more of the grandchildren of the Windrush generation will better understand our story, because our story is not a new story. It's 74 years in the making, 1948 to 2022, 74 years. So making sure that our children and our grandchildren know that story is important for their cultural esteem. It's important for their pride. And so that's the early impact that I see. And if in fact we continue to celebrate on a year-by-year basis, I think just more and more of our young people will get it. And that's precisely what we want.
Yeah. And in fact, there's a couple of points before we actually close that you've raised, which are great. I would also add Brent to that list, because
Excellent.
Our Windrush anchor will be in Brent with the theme of hope, resilience, and progression. So having said that, you know, I'm very impressed with your Latin. So could you, I'd like you to just tell us about your theme, which I think is brilliant, which again exemplifies the Windrush leadership generation that we are now.
Okay, we talked about this earlier, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share it more widely. Not so many months ago, I came across a Latin saying, and my Latin isn't terribly good, but the words are ubi bene, ibi patre. And in translating that into English, it says, where I live well, that's my country. Where I live well, that's my country. And I believe that that Latin phrase, which comes from the time of the Romans, actually speaks powerfully to folks in the modern Black community in the UK. Where I live well, that's my country. I shall leave it there for people to talk about it and think about what it means for them at the family level and indeed at the community level.
I think it's great because it aligns perfectly with our respect and inclusion is the common ground for all of us, regardless of our background and status. So I think it's a great message. So Dwain, on that note, I wish you well, and of course, wish you a great Windrush month, and Windrush
Indeed.
Day celebrations.
Thank you for the good wishes. Rudy, next week for myself and members of the management team will be manic. I have an event that relates to Windrush Day or the celebrating cultural esteem almost every day.
Yeah.
I've been asked to speak at schools.
Yeah.
We've obviously got our event on the Friday.
Yeah.
I'm part of work with Imperial College London, where we're rolling out the Black Graduates Careers Conference, and Reach Society is a big part of that. We'll be involved in Croydon, Association of Jamaicans and Reach Society, where we will be spearheading a roundtable conversation for about 15 to 18 community groups all around London and the Southeast. And I'm due to go to Turtle Bay, would you believe, for a meal with my wife on the Sunday, because the Association of Jamaicans have actually got an arrangement with Turtle Bay for celebrating cultural esteem. And my good friend Donald Douglas has invited me to join them. So it just seems a no-brainer to go along. So yeah, and that's just me. I know other members of the management team have got a similar range of engagement for next week. So next week should be fun. And why shouldn't it, as we celebrate our achievements and contributions?
Yeah, no, really. Great, thank you. And see you
Thank
again
you,
very
Rudy.
soon.
Indeed. And take care, my friend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.